Hi, this is Joy. I wanted to give a quick update. Thank you so much for all your positive responses to the video that I posted several days ago. I haven't been feeling great. I've really been struggling physically lately, and I was actually in bed, but I was reading some posts on my phone and I saw some things and I thought I just can't let that go by. So I'm not really sure how much wisdom I have in this by talking when I don't really feel that well, but maybe I'll just talk off the top of my head and hopefully it won't sound too rambling. But there was something I saw today on Twitter that I could not believe. And I can believe it, but it was difficult to believe. So let me just tell you what I saw. It was a post from the BBC News, and it was that the Pope says priests kept nuns as sex slaves. And so that was kind of like a jumping off point for me. We know about all these lawsuits with priests and, children and boys and all that, the raping and the molesting and everything. And now we've got nuns and we've got sex slaves. And so when I was speaking to you earlier about not being surprised about a tsunami of truth coming forth, I really was not kidding. And that made me jump to, because just the word rape right now, I've seen several stories in the last couple of days. I saw where an illegal immigrant raped his son, his 5-year-old boy, to death with a stick. Horrible, I know, but I told you this was horrific. So, all right. I'm not trying to press a hot button with this. I really want to stick on topic, but the whole when people are talking about illegal immigrants, let's keep this in mind with it. And again, I'm not trying to be political in any manner. I just want to be truthful. If you haven't traveled outside of the United States, you need to. And if you're not going to travel outside the United States, at least use the internet to discover about other countries and about their cultural norms. And you would discover, if you do that, that other countries, are not like other countries. Thus, the intake of lots of migrants into Europe has changed the complexion of Europe completely. And if you don't know about this, please research it. Please just look online. You'll see that there are basically almost mobs of young men and old men, whatever, of men who are raping very young girls. They're raping young boys. And I don't mean this as a fear tactic, and I'm not being racist and I'm not being mean. I'm simply saying that people throughout the world are raised with different ideals and different thoughts and different ideas that are acceptable to them, and so what might be normal in one country is not normal in another country. And when you have your laws and everything set up in a way that that does not allow for this normalcy, then what happens? Either the people have to acclimate to their new country or the laws have to be changed. And the problem that you're seeing where people are going to other countries is that they are not acclimating to the country where they're going to. And, I don't know. I think that if I were fleeing for my life from a country and a country took me in, what are some norms that I would do? I think I'd try to learn the language. It'd be very difficult for me at this point in my life, but I would attempt to do that. I would be respectful, I would hope, of their laws. I would try to acclimate myself to be part and to be welcomed, not to go to that place to absolutely with an intent to transform it. And if you don't believe that that is the absolute intent, not only of the people who are traveling to these places, but of the people who are letting them into these places, a globalistic type of ideology, then I'm sorry, you just need to research more. You've heard a narrow viewpoint of something, and maybe you haven't heard all of it. And truth is balanced, okay? Truth is balanced, and truth doesn't go, la, 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 la. I can't listen to that. Truth doesn't do that. Truth says, okay, let me hear what you're saying, and now let me evaluate it. Let me use wisdom. Let me use a little bit of time, thought, prayer. Let me put some ideas into that and see where I come to be at a balanced place in my life. So that's truth, okay? So don't jump all over me about illegal immigration and stuff. That is the problem with that. Legal immigration, it gives you're truly trying to find people who want to come to the country for right reasons to assimilate and to be part of the culture, not to come and radically change the culture. Now that gets me back to all of this gangs and gangs, but like sort of like mob type behavior of raping people. Why do people rape people? It's a power and a control. And so apparently it's possible that there's a goal of the people who are going into countries to exert their power and control and to claim that country for their religious beliefs and for their culture and for their ideals. To claim the country that they're going into for that. Okay, so wow, that takes me in so many different directions. I'm going to have to just stay focused right here because you'd have no idea what I really want to talk to you about at this point. But the reason I got out of bed to do this is because you can look at news. If you really look, you have to dig for it. You can't just go to the evening news. It's not going to be on there. But if you really dig for it, you're going to see where there is an abundance of illegal immigrants, stories about what would be terrible to us, and I would hope anyone, of this raping young children and abuse. Okay, now that doesn't make me happy to say that. There's nothing about me that wants to say it. But again, since my goal is truth, I'm not attempting to be politically correct in any manner. And again, I'm not connecting myself to any political party. I'm just trying to be truthful. So if you really do look, like if you go to the government website of crimes and look at stuff, you're going to see a lot of things like that. You're also going to see a lot of things where ICE is trying to pick up people, and then when you find out the things that have happened, they're just, horrific. They're not just rounding up these people because they have other family members here and all that. They're rounding up people because horrific crimes have been committed. And they're too unspeakable to talk about. I just really can't do it. I can't bring myself to doing it, but I'll have to give a glimpse of it. So one really big thing, it took me a long time to get here. You know why? It's avoidance. It's avoidance because I don't want to talk about it. Okay, but the story about the Pope saying that the nuns were used as sex slaves and this kind of thing, that just takes me right to human trafficking. It takes me right there. And I just don't think that the average American understands what a big deal human trafficking is and what the real genesis of it is. It's not all about sex. In fact, the core of it probably has very little to do with sex, because there are other things that are happening with people who are being trafficked. Yes, they are being trafficked for sex. I'm not denying that, but I'm trying to get to a bigger and darker aspect of this. So, again, one that brings me no joy to discuss on any level. Okay, so it's taken me almost 10 minutes to get here, but I'm going to try. The subject for the moment, through all of that, unless I go there, is adrenochrome. Adrenochrome. If you don't know what adrenochrome is, it is the preferred drug of the elite. And why do the elite prefer it? Because adrenochrome is known to give Um, it's like the fountain of youth. It gives you a youthful vitality and appearance. It heightens all of your everything. Um, it's like a super drug. Does it have a lot of bad effects? Not the kind of effects that you would normally see in drug use. Yes, it does. Yes, it can, and all that. Yes, it does. But not things that you would just normally associate with drug use. All right. So there's adrenochrome. Where does adrenochrome come from? Well, there are synthetic versions of adrenochrome. For example, if you are allergic to bees and you have one of the EpiPens, if you have an EpiPen that's out of date, it is basically converted over to adrenochrome. It turns pink and it's adrenochrome. Talking about that pink, if you were curious, this is my opinion now. This is just an opinion. I haven't read this anywhere. But remember when New York passed the abortion law that you could kill infants at birth? Remember how the governor, Cuomo, how he signed all of this, how they partied this legislation? Yes, well, we can kill babies after they're born. Yay! And remember what New York did to celebrate that? They lit up the building in pink. And I really could not figure out why they would do this in pink because, pink stands for breast cancer. I get women, pink, all that kind of stuff. But when you're talking about abortion, I'm not aware that pink has actually been the color that's associated with abortion. And so it occurred to me that maybe this really wasn't about abortion or women's health or anything like that, but possibly this was about a symbolic thing over New York of that, yes, we have adrenochrome. Yes, this is the adrenochrome color, and yes, we're back in business in a wonderful way that can't be litigated. So the thought of that is really horrible, but let me go to even more horror. So adrenochrome is best harvested through a living person. You do not want the person to be old because the older the person is, the less wonderful side effects that you get from taking adrenochrome. It is a drug of the elite and of Hollywood and of sports figures, of politicians and pastors and anyone who can afford it and anyone who will embrace the dark side. So I'm just saying that in general because, again, I want to tell you the truth. So adrenochrome, how do you get the best adrenochrome? Well, you find the youngest subjects. Obviously, freshly born would be a really great subject. But if you can't get that, then you get it from babies, toddlers, preferably children who are under the age of 9, before they've entered into any type of puberty or anything like that. How is it produced in the body? It's produced through terror. There's no other way to say it. They get these children through human trafficking. Children are bought. Children are abducted. Children disappear from foster care. Children are brought into other countries by people who are not even their family. People in your own neighborhood, the children, they just go missing, right? Okay, we've seen videos lately of young people trying to be dragged out of Family Dollar and other businesses by people who just walk up and they just come into the store and start dragging kids out. Okay, so there's a demand for it. It's a very high demand, and the elite have to have it because once you start using it, think about the movie stars who look really great. That's not all plastic surgery. It really isn't. And as crazy as a bat as you might think he is, Mel Gibson had a lot to say about how he's still alive. I really don't know, except that everyone thinks he's crazy now, so maybe that's how he's still alive. But he talks about human babies and the drinking of their blood and the eating of their flesh, and all of that is literally a currency in Hollywood. And how does that work with adrenochrome? How does that meet? How does that reconcile? How does it come together? Okay, so the kids who are abducted and kept prisoner are actually raped and tortured. They're terrified. And it is so during that terror, the body releases the adrenochrome. Adrenaline floods into their system, and so then it is harvested. How is it harvested? They take a needle and stick it through their eye. It goes right back to the spinal cord area, and they draw it off of the pineal gland. That's where it comes from, and so then they have fresh adrenochrome. Not a lot. You have to, do a lot of torturing and stuff like that to get a really good hit from the stuff. And so that's how they get it. Do they kill all the people? No, they don't. No, they keep a lot of these kids. They torture them over and over and over and over and over again. To get that. And then the truth is, when they're finished with that, if they don't sacrifice them to their pagan god, or eat them and drink their blood or whatever that might be, then they are basically sold for money with organ harvesting. Now, I know everything I've just said is too horrible to believe, and you probably think, Joy, you've just fallen off the deep end. You're just believing a bunch of conspiracy theories and all this other kind of stuff. Well, just let me say this in my own defense. Number one, I'm not saying this in isolation. Number two, it's real. Just look at the numbers of all the kids who are missing, and all over the world. And there is now you might not see your neighbor next door. If you go and knock on their door and say, hello, neighbor, how's it going? They're probably not using adrenochrome. Okay, they're probably not. But here's how the disproportionate statistics work. I would like to think that people like myself aren't involved in this craziness, okay? I would like to think that. However, there is a correlation. Apparently, with wealth comes this mad obsession. So, with more wealth, there's a higher use of adrenochrome. So, I heard a person say, and if I could remember whom it was, I'd give them credit for it. All right, because I'd love to give credit to people. But I heard this surge something, whatever. Anyhow, what they said was, I thought that when you got rich and famous, what that meant was you got like a car, you got like, an attractive person to date, you got a new house, you got a lot of money. I didn't know that it meant that you started using adrenochrome, raped and tortured kids, and, went into like some Luciferian satanic group. Okay? That is not a stretch. That is not a stretch. That is the truth tsunami that's going to come out. As horrific as it is. So it can't be ignored. It really, really can't be ignored. So the harvesting of people who are being tortured, the harvesting of their blood, of these young kids, and the use of adrenochrome is real. It's real. And you can see celebrities, and I have just seen pictures of Johnny Depp. Okay, he's looking kind of not so bad as far as like how old he is, all right? And then I saw a picture of him, he just looked hellacious, and then it was a time lapse kind of thing, and then he suddenly looked a lot better, okay? These people are not just putting tons of Botox in their body and surgery. They're using something much more powerful. They're using the blood and the life force of the innocent. And this is a supernatural thing. This is a good versus evil thing. This is a truth versus deception thing. And until we can realize this, that when you hear people talking about human trafficking and porous borders and things like that, there's much more horrific things that are happening in that than what just meets the eye. It's not about being against people from other cultures. It's not about not opening our arms as America to people and all that. It's something far more intentional. It's something far more deliberate, and it's something far more with the jack. It is a networking group that has entrenched itself all over the world. And it is in the most upper echelon of society, into the most powerful people that have ever existed in all walks of life. There's a direct correlation with those people. They have one thing in common, and it's whom they worship. And it's what they do to worship that entity. They're all about human sacrifice. They're all about it. They're all about the blood of the innocent. And I know, and I said in my first video that, yes, I'm a Christian, and I'm not trying to make all these statements necessarily about God or Christianity, but I'm not going to deny it either. But if you read in Revelation, you will see that it says that when will Jesus return? When will he return? When the cup of the martyrs is full, when the blood of the innocent is full. It also said in the first one, the blood of the innocent cries out. So I would say to all the women, to anyone who's watching, and anyone who knows anyone who's had an abortion, and if you have had one or if you know someone, here's the thing. That was presented to women as health care. That was presented to women as some sort of protection for their own lives. That was presented to women as we're thinking of you. That was presented to women as something thoughtful and caring and good. Now, I'm not saying that we should have just believed that, but here's something I didn't believe. I didn't believe it had any further agenda than that. I didn't. I thought it was just, well, here's some people packaging it this way, putting a bit of a spin on it, and there you go. And does everyone have free will? Yes, everyone does. But these people actually serve a God that requires blood sacrifice. These people actually serve a God that requires the sacrifice of the innocent. Okay? How best to do that than to convince people that you're thinking of them, but all the while the blood of the innocent is being shed, which goes to a direct supernatural consequence. It is worship. And then when you can terrorize the innocent. So when babies are aborted, or like when they're like the abortion happens and they're being born and like all of that, you know, that's terrible pain that they're experiencing. And so their system is flooded with adrenochrome. So when that baby is pulled out or it's born and killed, then, you know, no words. No words. It's not for healthcare. It's to make some very rich, satanic people get a high and to stay youthful. That's really just the bottom line. That's really the bottom line on open borders and human trafficking and all of the networks working together. You can't have as many kids as we have missing in the United States go missing every year where there are not people who are connected. There have to be high-ranking officials. There have to be senators and congressmen and the foster care system. You know, like 33,000 kids missing out of the foster care system. How does that happen exactly? One or two, maybe? Like some kid just runs down the street, goes missing, and some pedophile abducts them or something. But, you know, whenever I have a child in my classroom who just one day is talking about lazy people, and they on their own say, yeah, you got people who don't want to work, so they just get a kid and they sell them. Okay, this is 5th grade. This is small town. This is the South. Okay, when a kid is saying that in a casual conversation, I don't know. I'm kind of thinking that adults ought to open their eyes and wake up and know what's going on. Adrenochrome. It's real. It's the drug of the elite. How do you get it? You torture kids. How do you do that? Well, you put them in terrible, horrible, exceeding pain, and you terrify them to no end. On Jeffrey Epstein's island, there were, this is set up as like a pagan worship site. And there were these areas with berms, not just on the island, but on the other properties that he had, where basically it's like a hunting kind of ground where the human sacrifices would be hunted and terrorized. And then, of course, they had the freshest blood that was the richest adrenochrome in it. And the afterlife of this is very short. So you kind of have to, for it to really be very effective and very fresh and the highest use, you have to kind of torture your victims sort of on the spot and then use it, or have it very close by, have a source that's very close by that can deliver it to you. Not pretty. Not pretty. I don't even know if this video will make it to YouTube because of censorship and the words that I'm saying. But it's the truth. It's the truth. There are other agendas. We need to question the real story behind what's being offered to us. And why is it being offered? And what's happening to all these kids? And how can they go missing? And are the people who are supposed to be protecting us, like child welfare agencies, foster care, police, I don't know, senators, congressmen, higher up than that, presidents, world leaders? What are they doing to kids? And why don't we know this is common knowledge? Why isn't the media talking about it? Why aren't they talking about it? I used to make fun of other countries when I was young because I used to believe that all the propaganda, the propaganda, they don't really know the truth. God bless them. They don't know. America's got to fly over in planes and drop out leaflets to tell them the truth, to help them with this. I was really surprised when I adopted my son, and he came from Ukraine, and he was busy telling me all about how they were the first people on the moon and all the stuff that they did and all of this. This was what he was taught in school, and he was also taught a lot of other things, but he would become very angry and almost violent with me in his rhetoric back to me of like, no, you lie, that's not what it is. And I would tell him the truth as I knew it and that kind of thing. And I always thought about people in countries like that, like, God bless them if they only knew the truth. So here's the last little niblet of truth. Where did the term conspiracy theory come from? Where was it coined? It was coined by our CIA after the Kennedy assassination, because when people questioned the assassination, the CIA, who was probably part of the assassination, jumped right in there. Ooh, let's create this. You're a conspiracy theorist if you think outside what we really want you to do. And that's when they created Project Mockingbird with the media. And what is that? It's legit. Look it up. It's for real. It's where the media parrots what they want them to parrot. And that's why you can change the channel all you want and hear the same stuff over and over again, even the same words. They have their talking points that they get like at 4 o'clock in the morning before their day starts. And it's the same thing over and over and over again. And now I have to ask myself, are they telling me the truth? And what stories are they selecting? What stories are they selecting? It used to trouble me that a news editor, and I used to be married to one, so there you go, that a news editor could determine what news you would hear and read in the newspaper. Get the news stories. Oh, here's something, let me assign you this. You go do that, you go do that. So really, even though I think that he very much wanted to be objective. There's still a level of subjectivity in what you're covering, right? Because you're a person and, oh, this would be of greater interest. So being a news editor, you have to kind of figure that out, right? What would be of interest to people? What's newsworthy? What's newsworthy? Okay. Now, instead of feeling sorry for people like in China and my son from Ukraine, I feel sorry for Americans because I thought we had free press. I thought that they covered stories that were newsworthy. You want to tell me how adrenochrome isn't newsworthy? You want to tell me how all these missing kids are not newsworthy? You want to tell me why all the people who have apparently covered this and who are releasing information on it, that they are like that they're dead? And there's so many of those I can't even go into them. Again, just a little research. It's not an accident. And when people are I just read about one earlier this morning, who a few years ago was covering all this and had all this information to release about the foster care system, and right at the point of when they were going to legally go and report all this and testify and all this kind of stuff, they committed suicide. Yeah, it was ruled suicide, but it was 2 shots to the back of the head. Why isn't the news media covering that? How do you suicide yourself with 2 shots to the back of the head? I don't understand it. So therefore, yeah, I'm okay about if I'm a conspiracy theorist. Do you know why? Because it means I have a brain and I'm thinking for myself, and it doesn't all add up. And with the internet, I actually can do some research, but you have to dig deep because what they put on top isn't necessarily all the information. Adrenochrome. Kids tortured horrifically, perhaps over and over again, just so the elite can have a few less wrinkles and can be really sharp and young and worship a supernatural entity that loves the blood of the innocent. All I can do is ask you to think about it and pray for the innocent. Pray for the people right now who are in captivity, who can't get away, and who are being tortured for this sick perversion. That's all I got.